Okay. All right. So I'm not sure how many people we have here, but it doesn't matter. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. Welcome, family. Welcome, family. And as always, we probably right. We are the last of the millennials, and I am Kendra Rochelle.
I am Kelsey.
And I am Forelli Speaks.
And so we are doing our pop culture roundup. And so we're going to start talking about some things. One of the things we're going to be talking about is the I forgot the child name already. What's Jaden and Will Smith's daughter, Willow?
Hello.
Yes, Willow and her polyamory. We're really going to be digging into Mendices and Yandy's whole scandal. Also, the Karen. Oh well, we're not going to do Karen's be tripping. Shekinah Joe and Tiny's fallout, and then among some other things. So I think the bigger thing we want to talk about right now is the Yandy and Mendices scandal. So as you know, they are on the show, and what is it called? Couples Retreat.
Retreat on VH1.
Mm-hmm. And so they were at the bonfire, and basically Yandy asked Mendices if he would hold her down, and he said he did not know. Now, since that clip, which we're going to play, there was another clip where Mendices and Yandy talked, and he shed some light on some other things that he was feeling. So, Pirelli, if you want to go ahead and play that.
I'm going to play it from the beginning, all right?
Hey y'all, it's your boy Caesar, Black Ink CEO. And if you don't know me, the reason why.
Oh, so before we unpack this, so there's a second clip we're not going to show, and they're having a little more candid conversation the night after. I mean, this was kind of like, fuck it, you wasn't supposed to tell all of that, which we've seen this before with his mom. And he said, but since you've done it, here we are. And he talks about how when he was locked up, he felt like they were living their lives beyond him. And she was like, no, like it was hard. I was embarrassed. I couldn't tell the teachers where you are. The kids to this day thought that they were going to see you at work. And so like, she's like, when you were in prison, we were all in prison. Like, I was lonely. I went into a depression. Just because you was there didn't mean that just because I took a nice picture that, we weren't missing you. Like, y'all got to remember, like, she went from a wedding to prison. So there's mama trauma here, and it's a whole lot. What y'all thinking?
So let's get started with let's get a gauge for how everybody feels about this before we start to choose ye this day on which side you're gonna stand on. I personally feel like Yandy, baby girl, you already know what time it was. And I think she just failed to manage her expectations accordingly. And the fairy tale that she wanted to create was not existent. You were living by the streets of ride or die, and Mendices was on team. Where we riding to? Why we gotta die? I don't know if I can do this. And I don't think she was prepared for that truth. And men are not willing to go without. Like, yeah, they expect you to hold them down, but if the shoe was on the other foot, I can't ride that big with you. It's unfair, but she just didn't manage her expectations accordingly.
I don't know if I want to say she didn't manage her expectations, because another part of that second clip was he talked about how he doesn't even like to punish the children because he feels like he has to overdo to make up for all this time. And she was like, well, why don't you feel that same guilt for me?
Right.
Like, why you don't feel like you need to overdo it for me? Why you don't feel like you need to overly show up for me? I don't know. Like, I think you have that expectation when you say I do to somebody. You think, okay, this is for better. You're gonna ride for me like I'm gonna ride for you.
Right. However, you did some stuff that landed you in that position where you had to sit down. Like, this is not something that was beyond your control. You did something that broke the law, and you had to pay the consequence.
Now, Yandy knew he was in them streets.
Yandy knew he was in them streets. Yes. And it was all good until he got caught. Now, you decided to ride or die with your boo, and your boo just said, if times get tough, I'm not riding or dying with you. And we could tell that based on their relationship history. When they had a small little break, the whole baby came about from that break while y'all was figuring things out. You knew he wasn't loyal then.
Now everybody had not some people didn't have a little break, baby. Now do I ain't
baby. Yeah, break, baby. And so it just lets you know right then and there, baby. We not this ain't that ain't this. Like you can be all of that. But the fairy tale that she wanted to have just, and that she tried to sell everybody on, like, this is real. It was, I'm sorry, girl. You just.
It's not giving what it should have gave.
It's not giving what it should have gave.
Yeah.
He was supposed to lie. He was supposed to lie.
Yes, he was. Lie to me.
No,
to at least make me feel
looking crazy.
No, she looked crazy now because he told the truth.
Yeah,
I think he look crazy either way. But the fact of the matter is, one of our good participants said he's a mama's boy. What we are seeing is a true depiction of a childhood trauma unpacked, and for him to keep, threatening and hanging her with one, he manipulated her into staying. Like, if you want to leave, you can leave. That was code for, baby, what you won't do, someone else will, because I'm not going to go without, because I know what it's like to not have the person who I'm supposed to care for be there. And he has not healed from that mama trauma. And Yandy is trying to overcompensate for that. And baby, you're not going to win. You're not going to win because both of those Negroes are in denial. Okay?
Listen, I just think that every time
let's say, all right, now, even at work, you get a break. Relationships ain't different. I know he had a little baby. They came back.
That is so. I mean, like
okay.
So he should have lied. Like there are times in your relationship where you need to lie to your partner because you need for them to feel a particular way, even if you're not there yet. Because I don't know who it was. It was like you go to work and you give the people the best of you. You are nice to them. Then you come home and you give me the real you. Like, lie to me and make me feel good, even if you don't like me, And oftentimes we treat the people who have our back the worst, and people who wouldn't do what Yandy did. We give them, I asked to kiss. And so I think he should have lied. I think he was definitely wrong. If you want to leave, he really don't want her to leave, but
right,
he's not going to let.
It was definitely a form of manipulation.
Yeah, he's just not going to. I can see the manipulation, but I think it's also about, he talked about his mom, right? It's like, if the most significant person in my life left to me and I could deal with it, everybody else is non-consequential.
Absolutely.
And that is immature, like Alfreda just said, and it's a mechanism to protect yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's a defense mechanism for him.
And it's things you have to grow through that and really learn about yourself in order to not show up in relationships like that. Now, granted, we're seeing, Kelsey's the only one up here who's married, but that's a rough patch, right? So, because you're trying to realize, like, I've been telling all my friends that, they like, girl, you out here living your life. He up there doing 5 to 10 and you holding him down. Like, will he do this for you? And she telling everybody, yes, he would. And he just told the whole world, like, I don't know. Now, is that, as a man, what I can say is that he told a truthful answer, but I think that thing is not, it's not connected to whether or not how much he loves her. Because I don't think he would still be there if he did not. He wouldn't be doing the show, or maybe he would because it's get his money up. But
because clearly he lost it all in the streets.
I think those things are not dependent on each other, and she knows who she is with, and she probably had more hope for him showing up for her on national TV because everybody was like, "Bruh, you need to say yes." Yeah. All you gotta do is say yes. Like, I don't know.
So Ashley Andrews said he's probably always been that way and just tried to make him something he ain't never been. Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah. He said, Levontre says, I think he gave a political response for the cameras. I don't know if he should have lied, but that level of honesty was premature for sure. He should have lied, Trey. He should have.
He could have got away with a white woman's here if he just broke down. Like,
I was in jail.
It just broke out.
It just ran off. Like I just
like just go ahead and manipulate that scene. Okay.
Yeah. I feel attacked.
It just run off.
Do it again, Kelsey.
Just be like, what in the world? But the bottom line is people have to manage their expectations accordingly. By that I mean stop always expecting you out of somebody else.
Period.
That's it. Like just because you don't get brownie points for staying down and being loyal to the cause.
And that is the word for today. Say it again. You don't what?
You don't get brownie points for staying.
Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. The other word of the day. You can't.
Don't let you out of other people. Like, and that's just that on that.
So speaking of expectations, so Bill and Melinda are now free agents. Has any of you guys jumped in the inbox?
Hey, big kid.
So apparently another story broke that Melinda and Bill had some type of agreement that he would go on an annual weekend trip with an old friend or flame, however you want to flip it. And they've done that for years. So there's this thing about high value men. I hate that term, or, men of a certain level of wealth getting access or certain permissions that a regular man would not get. So how do y'all feel about that? First of all, like after you're married, you get an annual, yes, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, you get an annual long weekend. And it's a long weekend. So it's not just Saturday and Sunday, it's Friday through Monday. And y'all get to go. And basically they were kindred spirits. They were both into science. They were both into a whole lot of things. And they spent these weekends together annually. So
I think he found his soulmate and somebody who wasn't his wife. And his wife knew that.
And the soulmate or ex gave him the green light to marry Melinda. So he actually went to her and said, hey, do you think I should do this? And she said yes.
Listen, because this is a whole nother thing.
Like there's so many layers to this thing, like blah 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 blah.
Yes.
That was a business transaction. And that's a problem. Hello, Dennis. Rich people problems. We can't relate.
I can relate. I can relate. No, let me tell you, because I believe that no relationship should last more than 5 years. You should come back and decide, are we going to do this again? Are we going to keep this going? And you should agree, like, I guess a marriage renewal of your vows to say, is this working? Should we still keep doing this? Blah, 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 blah.
We got to see relationship out to bid to see who got the highest.
Not out to bid, but between you and your spouse to say what is going on. Because every time I open up Facebook and Instagram, I see a brand new mercy that God has created every day. A new man that I had never seen a day before. So
a brand new mercy.
Listen, a brand new person that I had never seen a day before that I didn't even know existed. So I think you can choose. I think choosing to be monogamous is a choice. I don't think it's natural. I think it is a learned behavior that we choose to do. But I'm just not here for it. I think it's amazing.
Not contrary. Actually, I think
that Tasha got a song to say you got 2 weeks notice. I resigned. You ain't treating me right. I've been working
I do think that after like maybe 10 years, we need to come to the table and say what's working, what's not working. Are you happy? Are you not happy? And then go from there. I do think that people should do that. Now, it don't have to be a contract. It don't have to be a renewal. However you want to make it. I do think people need to start redefining what marriage and relationships look like for them, because they definitely don't look like Nanny and Pawpaw.
We're not going to do Nanny and
Pawpaw because he had a whole nother family. So he was already doing it. So as many of us that think we can't relate, our forefathers related. And they didn't spend a week. They just had another side of town.
What we're going to do is pray this horn. This whoremonger spirit off of you, talking about calling a new mercy. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? People get married and they want to pigeonhole you to be a whoremonger.
I'm not. But what you're not going to say is like, my eyes, you know, it's a lot of stuff that look good to you that ain't, baby. But it is, I don't think it comes like a time where you're like, does this work? Like, hell.
Yes, it is. I think it's healthy because
that's good.
You change daily. The person that I met on day one is not the person who I actually married. So I have to continue to learn you, and I have to communicate to you almost like a review, like what's not working for you? Like, what do I need to, like, what's going on? Because if you don't communicate those things, I continue to change and we drift apart. And if you desire this long-term situation, then, and you're not really understanding who your partner has evolved into, then that's going to pose a problem for your relationship.
Ashley says, as a married woman, my husband and I sometimes weekly, daily hell as needed. And I think that's necessary. So Ashley, how's that? Does that work for you guys to constantly check in as needed or whenever?
In my marriage, we check in, and because we're growing at different rates, and the point is to never ever get comfortable, because who I am yesterday might not be who I wake up today. Like, I can have a changed process, I can have a changed thought. And as I read more about polygamy, we'll talk about that when we switch over to it. But in the changing of growth, things happen. And especially when you find high school sweethearts that, you know, end up making it, they are making it through the rough patches of, you're not who I originally started with. But I think where I am now, I'm either going to catch up. Like, everybody is different levels. Like, we're all at different speeds and rates. So is it a point in time where sometimes, like, all right, we're not even headed in the same direction. Like, we're not growing in the same direction. That's when you start to determine, you know, all right, now we need to split. But if you're growing together, stick with it. That's how I feel about it.
But you have to be conscious about growing together. It just don't happen.
It is a work. It is that is the work. The work is to grow together, to review your goals and because your morals change, your ethical your core values change. So it is a lot of things that you have to take into account with growth. So a lot of when we talk about our moral and ethical values, those are things that we learned as children, that it could be an experience that changes that thought process, right? And when you first get with somebody, you're like, all right, let's talk about this. And when you get into a household, for example, we'll say something simple as the thoughts and processes on finances, right? Now women are making more money. And now, before it was like the husband got to, bring home the bacon, do this. And now you're starting to see the turn of the century where men are becoming stay-at-home dads. And it's okay. Like, those conversations, like, you would have never heard that back when your grandma and your papa was together, because papa was out there bringing it home the bacon and gave him $20 at the end of the week to go get drunk, and grandma took all the money, right? That's not how that works. So is that a conversation you have ahead of time, or you wait until it's not working for you to be like, you know what, this ain't working, let's go?
I think Carla made an interesting point. She said, I think when you transition from relationship to commitment or marriage, the question changes from does this work or how do we make this work? So then it's like, it's not that it works. How do we come together to make it work? So.
Yeah. And I think, so one of the things that our grandparents did that we don't know is the older they got, like in the beginning, it's like, oh, I love you. I want to be with you, close to you. And then it's like, okay, I know you. now we need to get a double master or we need to get twin beds because
Let's live in the same room.
I don't need you up on me. My space. I know for me, I sweat at night, and so we gonna cuddle for about 15 minutes, and then I need you to get on your side of the bed.
But worry, I think, do what works for you. At the end of the day, do what works for you. What happens in your house is your damn business, and stop trying to sit and see and model what you see other people doing, because you don't know why people do the things that they do and where they are in their journey and why it's happening the way you see it.
Yeah.
Well, I want a Bill and Melinda situation because baby girl is
Bill and Melinda had a business transaction.
But that's what a marriage, I mean, that's what a marriage certificate gives you, right? You know, we were talking to somebody there about this whole concept of marriage, and one of my friends who's getting married in the same gender marriage, it's like, this is a business proposition that we're doing here. Like, yeah, I care about you and I love you, but we're starting to commingle assets, buying houses, buying cars, doing all these things. And so did they have a prenup? Like, I know they had a contract that
they have a very extensive contract that we'll probably never ever hear about. And I think with the soulmate and the kindred spirit and the person it worked for to get me where I am, aka Melinda, I don't think it just came with a price tag. It came with a very mature conversation to say, I like you, I love you, but there's somebody who I yearn for. And this will never, ever go away, which is this person you got to go see once a month. But he knew that Melinda was going to help build his empire to what he wanted. So
that takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah.
About, like, you know, that as a married, even if it's not married, that I love you, I chose you, but I can see, I'm not blind because I can see, and then I may like something else, doesn't really change home. John Legend said, is that I love you, but I strap it up when I sleep around, and I only do that because I care about you. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta think about.
Now let me say that for real.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. You let Chrissy know, like, baby girl, I'm sleeping around, but
it was
at least I ain't bringing you back a disease, nigga.
Exactly. Listen.
Am I supposed to be excited that you're not bringing me a disease? What?
Yeah.
Yes. Duh.
Y'all got you ain't doing me no favor.
She
okay. Like, that ain't this. Like, let's be very, very clear about this. You ain't doing me a favor, because if you're gonna step out and just go ahead and let me know. Now, when I bring in Jabbo up in this thing, don't be upset. But if I didn't have a disease, don't you bring me nothing I didn't already have.
That's why you wearing a condom.
But don't make it seem like you're doing me no favor, Negro.
It's
like, it's you a favor.
If he didn't care about you when he up around,
what we're not gonna do
if he didn't care about you,
our health status, and say, I'm doing you a favor by, I'ma still sleep around, but I'm gonna use a condom. Nigga, well, then don't sleep with me, okay? That's the period. We can no.
So we already know what boat you reside on, because you are team loyalty. Anything that breaks your loyalty, you deuces, goodbye. What I'm saying is, to the people who are not on Kelsey's team, is that your partner, if your partner is sleeping around and y'all have unprotected sex regularly, and then they go and do that same thing with somebody else, that's disrespectful. Even though, you know, cheating on you may be disrespectful, but wearing a condom and not bringing anything back to you is
but to that's out of respect. But what you're not gonna do is saying, I'm doing you a favor, but I'm using a condom because this is not what I normally do. Bitch, okay, well, you ain't got to do this. But because what I can always say is, well, you can just use a condom with me. Like, there are options here, baby. Because one thing I'm gonna do is be safe. Okay, this snapper is gonna be snapping without the diseases. Like, no.
Ashley asked, "Are the singles of today, Polly?" I think,
the
singles of today are more open. to, different ways of having relationships. So we'll transition that onto Willow Smith and her, if you got to cheat in the wrong relation. Okay.
Y'all shut up now.
No, because I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't think cheating is always tied to. It's not tied to love or respect or anything. It has most of the time it has nothing to do with the person that you're with. So I always don't agree with that. So I mean, most people just cheat just because of the opportunity.
And it's not cheating.
What is it?
It's that is the thing, that whole construct about
go ahead,
what really makes it so bad. It's not cheating.
Because one, did you set your expectations in the wrong way? Because if we ever had this conversation to say that although we are exclusive, I shall not see or have sex with anybody else, or was that just assumed based off today's relationships?
Now, what you're not gonna do, Kelsey, is come for the singles.
I mean, we not laying up to the same piece of meat every day. Okay, some days we go without something in bed for weeks.
I always say this, like, say your favorite cookie is a chocolate chip cookie, and you're gonna eat that cookie every day. But one day you're gonna want a little piece of banana pudding. It does not mean that that chocolate cookies are not your favorite cookies. It just means that today I want a little piece of banana pudding, and now I'm gonna go back to my chocolate chip cookies.
Somebody said so. Y'all
it's not about swinging. It's about having choice to do what you want to do with another consensual adult. I do believe there's a book called what is it called? It ends with slut, but it's like the honest slut or the moral slut. But they tell people when I get into a relationship, like, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is blah, 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 blah. And it gives people an opportunity to choose about how they're going to be in the relationship.
Okay? Somebody said, Dennis, come on now, Dennis.
So I think, like, okay, I once heard, because a lot of people think that, let me just say, I am not built for a poly relationship. I am not. I'm not. But I do understand, and I'm not opposed to other people enjoying that lifestyle. And it's not always, most people assume that it's about sex, and it's not. And I heard a guy one time give this explanation. He was like, as a child, you're brought up to say, love everybody. You love this person. Then when you get in this relationship, you're expected to condense your love to just one person. But that's not even how you were conditioned. You were conditioned to be able to love everybody unconditionally and be there for them. But now, because I say I want to be exclusive with you, I want to have a relationship with you, I'm only expected to condense my love to one soul for the rest of my life.
Okay, so let's take this into a little more context, and let's transition into the Willow Smith polyamory. Am I saying it
right? Right, which is what I'm talking about, because that was her context, was that when Gammy said, "Well, y'all just love to have sex," she was like, "I'm the least sexually active of all my friends, and my polyamory relationship is not based off sex. It's just I love multiple people."
Sometimes you want to put them all together in one, and you can't. So you just
like build a bear, so you just get multiple bears.
We know you cannot relate. We know
I'm not saying I can't relate. So we'll start with the talking points of when they say you're supposed to love everybody. Mm-hmm. I think there are levels to love.
But are you taught those levels of love when you're taught to love everybody? Because if not, you can't expect to apply that principle to me now that I'm an adult.
Yes. I think it naturally comes. Like, I think I can generally care for you. But I know that because when I love hard, and that's not something I can sprinkle around like fertilizer to random people.
But that's not, loving everybody is not polyamory. Let's be clear.
But that's basically, according to Willow, she said, it's like are you able to come into a room and love everybody? Like, it was as if it was a next tier, and she was saying that the love that she has for, let's say, you. I love you because we're able to connect on a mental level. But I love Kendra as a partner because she's able to please me sexually. But I have not found that one person who's able to do A, B, C, and D.
And you never will, because nobody is ever able to satisfy you in all the areas of your life. You're going to get some or majority of what it is that you want, but not everything. And you have to decide, are you okay with having most of your needs fulfilled rather than none? And so for polyamory people, it's like, I want all my needs fulfilled. And if that comes from multiple people, then that is what it is. And I think it's just a different way. It's not the mainstream way of having a relationship. But it doesn't mean that the mainstream way is the right way. It's just the way that everybody accepts. So if it shifts from a monogamous relationship being the thing that a marriage is, and having multiple partners in a relationship is normal, like that tide could shift anytime based on how the winds blow. Like a lot of this stuff is just based in Christianity. And I think, well, there are some forms of Christianity that allow polygamy, the folks out in Utah. And I think it's okay, because you have to do what floats your boat, whatever works for you and your family. That's what you have to do. And I'm not against that. I say, work it, because we got a person on the show on TLC that's called Finding Sister Wife or something, and it's a guy named
Sister Wife. Yeah, they're in Garner. Yeah,
and it's like right up the street, honey.
Yeah.
STK. And it's one of those things that it's just like, we've never considered it, we've never seen it. But I know when my grandfather died that there was a whole nother family and children. It wasn't considered polygamous. It was considered cheating. But older generations have done some form of polygamy for a long, long, long time. But we get upset when people are honest about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I respect that more than you found out after somebody died that he got 5 sets of families.
And most of the time, grandma knew about it. And sometimes, Ernestine lived next door and the kids all played together. So
it's a lot. What I try to do in my life is that you make the decisions that make you happy and you leave me alone. But I'm all for it.
So Trey said that sounds like it's self-protecting to me. That sounds like your commitment to one person was once mishandled, and it created distrust and fear of giving that much of yourself to one person again. I don't think so.
For people who live under the mindset that being married to one person is the way that it's intended, it would sound like that. But there are people who grew up and all they've seen is what they see multiple people in a marriage, and that's their normal. But we haven't seen that, and we haven't experienced that, and so I just say, don't judge. Just look and see what's the what, and let people be. Because why would I care?
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't. Yeah. Not to say that that's not my interest, because I think it comes from a different. When I think polygamous and reading a little deep into it, because sometimes I'm a white girl, y'all. So please know that. And they say, I want all of my needs met 100% of the time. For example, one of the co-hosts they had on the Red Table Talk, the guy was saying, when Gammy had mentioned, like, it sounds like it's about sex. And he mentioned along the lines, like, basically, if one day somebody doesn't want to have sex, then there's another partner there who could step in or something like that. Just to paraphrase real quick. And so I felt where Gammy was coming from, where she said, well, it feels as if you're speaking against the people who believe in monogamy. And I could see how that statement could, if you're just new to understanding what this term is and what it looks like, is, well, if you can't do it, I'm not satisfied with the fact that you can't do it. Not to take into account that it could be something going on with this woman where she's not able to fulfill your sexual desire in that moment. I.e., she might have just had your baby. So because she can't do something for 6 weeks, does that mean because you have to have delayed gratification for 6 weeks because you delivered a human, you should be able to go have sex with someone?
Yes. Is it on?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So there's nothing that stops a man outside of the fact that after a while your dick just breaks. It stops working.
It
that
does not working.
Okay, without help of a jump start, but your shit just wear out. And at the moment, I may be incapacitated. My cookie may be incapacitated because I just delivered your baby. And because you want an itch scratch, you like I felt where Gimme was coming from. And to me, that statement took polygamy into a different view for me, where it was, for some reason, there is not a luxury where you get to be and get to have 100% of what you want all the time. And just thinking about us as women, what we go through. So once a month, we go through something, a menstrual cycle where, there's some people who lay the towel down and run the red lights, but there's some who stop, for whatever reason. And I just, I felt like, okay, for a person to be this adamant about it, I said, there is a underlying issue of what appears to me as codependency. You have to have something constantly fulfilling a need somewhere. You don't know what it's like to be by yourself. That's my opinion.
I'm just saying.
But why? Why is that frowned upon? Like,
I'm not saying it is.
It is though. It is.
But it is. It's frowned upon. Even in your statement was like, well, you can't wait because I can't give you something. Why you can't suffer with me or not, or just sit here and be dry until you're done? Like, why is it that person really can't have what they want, especially if it's available to them?
I believe that because that's selfish. Like, it's not that it is. It's not because I'm withholding it from you because you did something wrong, because you can't, you did, Kendra, you were a bad girl today, so I'm not going to give you any. It's the fact that I cannot do it. And I may want to, but because I'm having a medical condition and you're so selfish in that moment that you want to have sex, like that's, like, I wasn't withholding anything from you.
But I think you're speaking from a monogamous relationship perspective and not someone who agreed to be in a polyamorous situation. Because then if I'm agreeing to this, then it's understood that when I may fall short or there's an opportunity for improvement for me, there is somebody else here to pick.
Where was the opportunity in my scenario? Where was the opportunity of improvement of we just had a baby? And
yes, if they fell short or there was an opportunity.
But it's only two of y'all in the marriage. So if his other option is to find somebody else. So in the polygamous relationship, there are more rules, and I want people to stop doing it, because what we do is the thing that doesn't align to us, we make it evil or we make it the other, and we make it as if I made a choice. It's like Black Lives Matter, right? When we say Black Lives Matter, everybody say, well, all lives matter. We're not talking about all lives. We're talking about this thing. And yes, all lives matter, but we're not talking about that. And so I think the majority in any situation, whenever the majority hears something that is on the opposite of what they believe, they feel attacked. But it's like, nobody's talking about you because we don't even want what you got. Like, we're not even looking for that. We're just saying, let us be, and this is what I have. And I think that's the problem. And that's what happens with majority populations in any situations, whatever context that it's in. Whenever something creeps up that people think is going to be a attack on what they have, it becomes a defense, and they try to minimize it and turn it into, oh, it's just about sex. And that's what they do with gay people. Oh, you just want to have sex. Well, actually, I have never had sex, and I still like the same gender. So what now? So that's the thing that kind of happens across the world. And I think it's really about appreciating the differences and just allowing people to kind of live and be and not feel like you're rights and freedoms are being encroached upon because I make a different decision. So I definitely understand what you're saying, Kelsey, but I'm like, for the general people who might see this and watch them later and on demand, like, you have to understand that people are going to be different than you. They're going to make different choices, and they're not attacking your freedoms. And they're not trying to actively tear it down or reduce it to something else. So this has been good.
I mean, and to be clear, everybody has a choice to make. And with that, I believe, if that's what floats your boat, go for it. That's just not something I would not be able to manage that expectation, because I'm a feeler. I can't manage the emotions of multiple people. So, and with polyamory, one thing I did understand is that it's not about a rule, it's about boundaries. And a lot of people have issues creating and establishing boundaries, opposed to who's going to step and stick around, opposed to who's going to leave. A rule is much more easier to discuss, because that's just what we're used to talking about, but not a boundary. So again, that's just not my forte. But it's not something I'm like, oh no, don't do it. I mean, whatever's good for you, your household, and the 5 other people living there. Okay.
So speaking of differences, and respecting and having boundaries. So recently, Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, made a statement. It's also running for, was it governor of California? Made a statement that transgender girls should not be allowed to compete in girl sports. And so there was someone who came out and said that, well, Bruce Jenner should lose all of his medals that he won as a man. Now, I disagree with that.
Totally.
So how do you guys feel? How do y'all feel about that?
I want
what part? That he should lose his medals? That Bruce Jenner should lose the medals?
Yes. I disagree with that.
Why?
Based on his position, that is true.
Well, what I'm saying is Bruce Jenner won medals as a man competing in a man's sport.
Okay.
So
Bruce Jenner is dead and gone. Like, it's just like any other. Like, if that's how we have to view it, right? Like,
you don't have to. But yes, I know.
So so Bruce Jenner is no longer. Bruce Jenner competed as a man in men's sports and won those medals fair and square. I side with Caitlyn Jenner, who says with transgender women. So for those, because I'm still learning the genderbread, this is a man who has transitioned to a woman. So we will call him a trans woman for the internet. That trans women should not be able to compete in women's sports. And by women, that means you are born naturally as a woman. I 100% agree. And because the fact of there is a natural body density difference that automatically, whether you are a trans woman or as a trans woman, gives you an advantage over a natural born female. And I think it's the equivalent of a woman taking steroids to participate in a sport as it is a transgender woman. So I 100% agree. Go Caitlyn.
Yeah, I agree with Kelsey.
I agree.
No sense there. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, because there is no matter what you do or what you take, your DNA is going to genetically make you compete differently. Because if it wasn't true, then there would be no men's and women's separate sports. Everybody could just play.
Mm-hmm. Men's and women's.
Women.
Men and women's.
Women's.
There's no. So I was definitely taken aback that there was a member of the community who is a trans woman who said that Bruce Jenner should lose his awards. I wasn't quite sure, but I'm definitely proud of Bruce for taking a stance for what's right.
Right.
We're not proud of Bruce or Caitlyn. We're proud of Bruce, but
Caitlyn. I'm sorry.
Caitlyn has been a hot effing mess for a long time, and so Caitlyn is don't rock with her. I don't care. The transgender issue even they don't rock with her like that, because Caitlyn Jenner is a person who has means in access. So if you haven't seen it, watch the Caitlyn Jenner like documentary on We to see the response, because she did not struggle. Trans people go through a lot of things to become who they are. If you want to talk about not real trans people, but trans people who have a similar experience that is the same. You look at your T.S. Madisons and people who go on RuPaul Drag Race, they will go into sex work. Caitlyn Jenner was able to afford gender change, was on a major network.
I thought Caitlyn didn't get the gender change.
She didn't.
Oh, I thought it did.
She's a queer woman.
No, I'm talking about like had surgery.
She just had breasts. She has not finished her part.
Oh, well, that doesn't make them a thing. But I thought on the show I saw them get she had multiple surgeries. Let me say that.
Yeah, she did, but penis removal wasn't one.
But what I'm saying is that when I say the surgeries, I was not referring to the genital parts, but being able to have the surgeries, which are the things that make people be able to pass more, is not something that most trans people have access to. So Caitlyn Jenner's experience as a trans woman was not the same. It was privileged, the 1%. It's like folks, when we're fighting about these $1,400 checks and they think that's enough for us to get by because they can't relate, because they haven't been poor. They don't know what that looks like. And that's what Caitlyn Jenner is for transgender people. It's like, girl, you ain't with us.
Well, why?
Because she did not experience the same things.
Right. So let's take a moment because I really want this to be a moment of education for me, because just go.
Well, it's the same thing. If somebody tries to come and talk to you about your experience as a Black woman, and they're a Black woman, but who has not experienced the same things as you, what can they tell you about your experience?
Right. And there's nothing, but I don't think that we should diminish the fact that, granted, because she had the money to get the surgery a little bit faster or just go through her process a little more seamless than a person from rural South Carolina was, I don't think that changes.
It does. Much. It does.
So
somebody who is rich and wealthy and has access
is somebody who capitalized her experience and has done nothing to help progress the experience of trans people in this country.
It's no different. So I know people walk really on eggshells around transgender people, LGBT people, but you cannot be afraid to call a thing, and we're not going to do that, right? When people, regardless of what your gender is or gender identity or expression is, if you do something that's effed up, then we can talk about that, because we're not attacking you for who you are. That effed up? She tried to carry a banner for a community of people that she never had any experience with. She had a revelation that, okay, I'm going to come and be my full self. Amazing, but don't come out here and try to be an ambassador for us, because you don't know what it means to be a trans girl.
Did you do that, or did the media do that?
I don't know. I wasn't there, but I know what I saw. And that's the only thing I can go off of. I wasn't in those circles, but you can watch the Becoming Caitlyn Jenner, and you can see all of that. And what I'm saying now is based on that. Those girls gave her hell. Like, we need to educate you, because you are in a space to have influence because of where you sit. Right? So they had to educate her to make sure that she understands, because she didn't experience it. Trans people usually have to experience some things that we can't even talk about. And we get to have a show about it, but there are lots of things that your privilege doesn't allow you to experience because of where you are financially in the world. And that's just what it is.
But that's the world in itself. That's like right now, it's with Black people trying to figure out how to close the generational wealth. I mean, the wealth gap.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same.
So what I heard is, because she didn't have to struggle and she had the means to get her surgeries fast enough, it didn't make her. And it's just kind of.
It's not about the surgeries. Don't think about the surgeries. Right? The surgeries are not what make trans people.
Okay.
Right? White people cannot connect with the experiences of Black people because they don't experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
So because it wasn't highly detailed and it wasn't in the form of a struggle, does it mean it didn't happen? We don't know how long Caitlyn dealt with the fact of I'm a woman on the inside. This man was a triathlon.
That's
We
what
don't know how long this.
But that's what I'm saying. We can talk further. I would say watch Becoming Caitlyn Jenner. That'll give you the full perspective of what I'm trying to communicate. And you can see where she says herself, I had no idea this is what it meant, what other trans people experience. I never had to go through that because I was Bruce Jenner.
Right.
The world loved me, and then I became Caitlyn Jenner, and there was immediate acceptance. Trans people don't get that. That is not normal. They don't get TV shows to share this stuff. That's all I'm saying. And so there is a difference. Watch the show and you will see it for yourself how they have to educate her, because she was thrust in, just like the people who are like Andrew Brown was killed, their families are thrust into these positions. They're not prepared to be the banner.
Yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner was not prepared to be the banner, right? Happened to you in the right place. And this we're gonna make you represent us. And that's what I'm saying is that she did not, what we will say, the qualifiers. We didn't go through the struggles. And that's what people will say is that because she's a Republican or conservative Republican, right? And it is different. There are some similarities, but there are more differences than there are similarities.
Okay.
Kendra.
I don't have anything.
Is that our last topic?
Yes, that was our last topic.
Kodak Black.
Oh, yeah, we did. Okay. Yes, we did. So this will be our last topic.
Trey has a nice comment.
The answer is no to Trey's question. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying. No. It's not. Watch Becoming Caitlyn Jenner and you will understand it. And we can do another show about it, but that is not what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think Caitlyn Jenner intended to be the face of transgender women. I think because they had access to a TV show where this was very public, and they showed how the family reacted to this. Some of the family iced him out. Some family accepted because he wrote a book. And I think because he was a part of the Jenner Kardashian clan, he was thrust into this thing that he didn't have full understanding of outside of this is who I am on my inside, and I want to bring this outside, not educated on any of the struggles that transgender people go through or the things that they have to experience. He was just handed this responsibility that he didn't necessarily ask for. And I think that kind of came out on a controversial interview that he had on the Ellen show, where he made a statement that she didn't agree with, but I don't think it was understood that he was not supposed to be a representative to begin with.
But it's like what people do, what Black people experience all the time. You show up in spaces as the good Negro, and people want you to speak for the Black race, and like, because we're not a monolith, right? Yeah. And that is the thing. But when you are put in that position, and Caitlyn embraced it, and as Dennis is saying, exploited it. Like Caitlyn Jenner knew that this was going to be a big deal. So we don't wash her clean of the responsibility, because people watched the Keeping Up with the Kardashians show, and that storyline became about Caitlyn Jenner, got a spin-off show, and she agreed to it. So when you agree to do this thing to show your life, then you take on that responsibility of making sure that if you're going to show up and be this person that represents a community of people, you need to understand the experiences of all of these people. And so she benefited from something that people normally lose their lives, get killed over, get exiled from their families for. And that is the difference. She benefited from this. It's like being gay is like this trend. Like, I'm gonna just be gay because it's the trend thing to do when that is not the real experience of most people. So I don't have nothing else to say about that.
I love us for real.
I love us for real. And guess what? I'm not transgender, and I don't relate to transgender people because I've never had that experience. I wake up and my parts are what they are, and I agree with them, and I love them. But Caitlyn Jenner does have to pay recompense for what she did.
I think this is definitely something we can definitely find. If we have any members of the LGBTQ community who are transgender who would love to come on and speak about us, because I definitely would love to get some more information about this, because my stance is totally just a little different, not in opposition, but it's different. I see it from a different lens in regards. Hold on, but she could have said no to exploiting the transition on TV. She got that check. She knew what she was doing.
But I don't. With that situation, because she chose to, televise her transition, and now she's quote unquote responsible for educating people on a certain thing. That's just like saying the Housewives of Atlanta represent Black women, and now they're responsible. And so on, like every other reality show that's being aired, we're not making them responsible to represent a group of people. I think that was more so, this is my story. This is what I'm going through. And getting a check is not new for the Kardashian Jenner. It started from a sex tape that we was like, it's out here, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work this. I don't think that that's what that was, and we'll all be sitting here lying to say we wouldn't accept a bag to talk about our story.
And Kendra, I totally 100. So for example, in a sense of things that I can just kind of relate it to, with Greek life. Look over the generations, everybody feels like they had a struggle to get the same letters, right? So prime example now, what we see today with COVID, the people who decided to join organizations had to do most of their process virtually, right? So now, are we going to say that they're less of a member because their process was different?
Yeah, I do.
And but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say that, because it's like, at the end of the day, we are now a part of this. I cannot exclude you over something that you had no control over. You didn't have control over the fact that COVID was going to come and you couldn't meet face to face, right? Some people were born into wealth. Some people did not have to have the constructs, the social constructs of not having the money, right? Some people were not born into a family where they were just not open-minded enough. But at the end of the day, y'all all have the same end result, which is I am a transgender person. So instead of worrying about what the process it took you to get here, now that we're here, why can't we just welcome each other?
Because it's not. But
it also
it's so much more nuanced, and that's the thing I'll say, because I'm not transgender, and also I can only tell you as an ally of the transgender community what my experience has been related to that situation. And it's easy for us to try to put things in ways that we can make it relate to us, but we have to remember that the LGBT community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, we all good. Like even us and transgender people, we don't have the same experience. LGBT people is about who I'm attracted to. We don't wake up and say, look in the mirror and I feel like Pharrell should be a girl. That's a whole nother different experience. And so even I have to continue to be educated to understand what that looks like. And so this is another marginalized group of people, depending on if you Black, if you a woman or a man, you could be 3 times marginalized. And so those experiences are so much different. And I know we try to correlate them to things that we can make them make sense, but it's nuanced. And it's so nuanced that it's different, and it's not one answer for everybody.
Right.
It's like Black folks, and you're going to get different answers, but I'm speaking to what I saw on the show and how they felt about it and what Caitlyn Jenner said out her mouth. And so I would recommend to y'all, if you want to know more about that particular experience and see it side by side, somebody who is rich and has the access and is not judged. Because remember, Caitlyn Jenner went to the NBA, whatever the award they have, and received an award.
The ESPYs.
As Caitlyn Jenner for stuff that Caitlyn Jenner didn't do. Like, you got to think about it. That's not what other trans people experiences are.
So then it almost feels like, because your experience doesn't mirror mine, you don't get to share your story.
No, she shared her story.
No. But what I'm saying, how people or how it's being expressed, how people are feeling about it, because you don't experience these things, and because you're privileged. Because even to make it personal for me, I was a very privileged teenage mom. I didn't go through any of the things that most people would say or that they deal with as a teenage mom. I had the support system. I could go and fly to Argentina if I wanted to, and I didn't have to have that level of responsibility. But because my story doesn't mirror thousands of other girls who were teenage moms, I don't get to share my story. I don't get to say that this is what my experience was.
No, Caitlyn Jenner shared her story. That's not what's at.
No, what I'm saying is that's
not what I'm saying. That's what you're hearing. What I'm saying is that she shared, once you're thrust into a position, she started accepting these speaking engagements to go talk about trans issues. And you're going to talk to people who you don't share their same experience. If you're a teen mother, and I became a father when I was 30 and had a career, your experience as a mother is different, even though we share the title of a mother. So you can't speak to this whole community. So if you're going to be an ambassador for this community of people, you need to understand all of the people that you represent. And that's what the show was helping her to understand. You entered in as a trans woman, as a privileged person who access. But let us tell you that most people who discover that they're transgender, this is what the road looks like for them. So that when you do go up into these places and stand up and speak, that you're not offending and offensive, and that you can really understand the breadth and the depth of what that experience looks like, because it's very different than what you experienced as a privileged trans woman. That's all I'm saying.
All right, we can table that. And Kendra Rochelle.
Well, this was a great dialogue. This was a really great dialogue, and I really appreciate everybody who joined us on this evening. Remember, you can always catch us every other Thursday, and then we'll also have our Saturday uploads as well. So the video that we're going to have next Saturday is what, Ferlin?
What do you say? I'm sorry.
So the recording of this live will be available this Saturday. Next Saturday, we will be exploring the topic of,
is blood thicker than water? We really go there.
Yeah, we really do. We go there.
We go there. It's amazing. Make sure if you are not following us on Facebook, YouTube, that you hit that like button, subscribe, go to our Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, rate us 5 stars, leave a comment, because we want to continue to bring you content that you can use, because we bring your perspective like no one else. And as you can see tonight, that we just say it how it is, and it might get uncomfortable, but we're going to push through it, because we all want to learn and grow, but we want to share what the perspective is from the millennials. And so on that note, you know what we say, we're probably
right.
Well, thank
We're going to get it right one day, we promise.
We are, even probably should have been like, box, but nonetheless.
This internet is...
No, what I do want to put into vote is we are no longer gonna call it Al Gore's internet, but Soulja Boy's internet, because Soulja Boy is the one who created the internet. Meet us on Instagram Live to poll it. I definitely in my heart of hearts,
Beyonce's internet. I just want y'all to be clear.
Let's, she can't have everything, but I just want to let y'all know that Soulja Boy is the one who created the internet, and that's how he made his millions, billions, trillions. And I'm with Big Soulja.
I rock with Soulja Boy.
Big Draco.
My space
Draco.
So on that note, good night, guys. We appreciate you for joining us. Until next time, we probably right.
We love you.
This is